There are moments in life when it feels like everything and everyone is standing against you. You pray, you work, you stay kind, and still, the attacks come from every side. People misunderstand you, doors close that should have opened, and battles rise that you never even started. It's in those moments that the human heart feels the weight of silence, wondering if justice will ever come. But heaven never sleeps. There is a movement taking place in the unseen realm, a divine rearranging where every false tongue, every hidden plan, every weapon raised against you is being dismantled one by one. You are not forgotten, and you are not fighting alone. Psalm 35 is not just an old scripture. It is a living reminder that the God who defends the innocent still moves in power today. When you are attacked without reason, when the wicked plot behind closed doors, he takes your case personally. Your stillness becomes your weapon, your faith becomes your fortress, and your endurance becomes your evidence. Because the moment you release the battle to God, the enemy begins to fall not slowly, but suddenly. This is not about revenge, it is about vindication. It is about the moment when light exposes every lie, when truth stands unshaken, and when the one who was mocked rises again with strength and grace. The same God who fought for David fights for you now, and the fall of your enemy is not a matter of asterisk, if asterisk, it is a matter of asterisk when asterisk. And that moment begins the instant you choose to trust him completely. Every single day, whether you recognize it or not, there's a war happening around you. Not the kind fought with guns or swords, but one fought in silence in the unseen realm, where destiny is decided before your eyes ever see the result. You wake up thinking it's just another morning, but somewhere, forces beyond your understanding are moving, some working to lift you higher, others trying to pull you down. That's the reality of life. You see only a small part of the picture, but there's something much greater taking place. And in the middle of that unseen battlefield, there is one who stands for you, fighting battles you don't even know exist. There are times when you walk into a room and feel the weight of tension without anyone saying a word. You sense the resistance, the envy, the judgment, and yet you smile, you keep moving, because deep inside, something tells you not to break. You don't realize that while people were speaking against you, God was already silencing them in ways you'll never hear about. While someone was plotting your downfall, heaven was already rewriting the story to make it work for your good. That's the mystery of grace. It works behind the curtain. It doesn't always announce itself with lightning and thunder. Sometimes it just removes a danger before it ever reaches your door. That's how he fights when you think about the struggles you've faced. There were moments when things could have gone terribly wrong. That accident that almost happened but didn't. That opportunity you lost that later saved you from pain. That relationship that ended before it could destroy your peace. You call it coincidence, but that's not coincidence. That's protection, that's intervention. That's the hand of God moving in silence while you were too distracted to notice. There's a shield over your life that no human eye can see. You might not feel it every day, but you are covered by it. You are walking through storms that were meant to take you out, and somehow you're still standing. That's no accident. Life will test you in ways that make you question everything you believe. You'll wonder why things aren't changing, why you're still waiting, why your prayers seem unanswered. But faith is not about seeing the fight. It's about trusting that it's happening even when you can't see it. The greatest victories often come without a sound. While you're worrying about the outcome, heaven is working out the process. While you're crying in your room, angels are being sent to rearrange what was meant to destroy you. It's not your strength that keeps you standing. It's his unseen power that carries you forward, and sometimes the battle isn't even against people, it's inside you. The doubts, the fears, the insecurities, the whispers that tell you you're not enough. That's where the real war begins. You may smile on the outside, but deep inside you're tired of fighting thoughts that drain your spirit. Yet even there, you are not alone. Every time you push through the fear, every time you rise after falling, every time you choose faith instead of despair, something supernatural moves in your favor. You can't see it, but the moment you decide not to quit, heaven takes notice. You think you're standing by willpower, but it's grace holding you up. Grace that fights battles in your mind before they ever become battles in your world. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not that your enemies fall, but that you stay calm while they rise. You don't retaliate, you don't curse, you don't seek revenge, because deep down you know God's got this. That's maturity, that's power under control, that's faith that refuses to panic. You can't control what others do, but you can control what you believe. And when you truly believe that God fights for you, your heart rests. You stop explaining yourself. You stop defending yourself. You stop running from fear. Because the same God who opened the Red Sea, who shut the mouths of lions, who stood in the fire with 3 men who refused to bow, that same God is standing with you in your unseen battles today. It's easy to praise him when everything's going right. But the true test of faith is whether you can praise him when nothing makes sense. When you're losing friends, when doors are closing, when your plans are falling apart. Can you still trust that he's working behind the scenes? Because if you can, then you'll start to see the evidence. The very people who tried to stop you will end up watching you rise. The obstacles that looked permanent will crumble overnight. You'll realize that God never needed your help. He just needed your trust. He doesn't fight your battles with noise. He fights them with timing, with purpose, with divine precision. And when he moves, it's final. No one can reverse it. You've got to walk like someone who knows they're protected. You've got to carry yourself like someone who knows their destiny is guarded by heaven itself. Don't waste energy trying to fight every enemy, correct every rumor, or prove every point. You are not called to fight in every direction. You are called to stand. Stand in peace, stand in purpose, stand in faith, because the moment you stand still, the unseen army moves on your behalf. That's why some people can't understand how you keep going after everything you've been through. They don't see who's been fighting for you. They don't see the sleepless nights turned into strength. They don't see the divine hands that lifted you when no one else did, when the battle feels invisible. Remember, so is your protection. You don't always get to witness the fall of your enemy, but you will always experience the rise of your own strength. The storms may rage, but they can't destroy what God has decided to protect. Keep your eyes on the path ahead. Keep your spirit steady, because somewhere beyond what you can see, your victory is already unfolding in silence. There are moments in life when opposition feels overwhelming, when the presence of conflict is not just external but deeply personal. You begin to feel the weight of being misunderstood, misjudged, even betrayed. The people you thought would stand with you sometimes turn away, and those who once spoke softly now sharpen their words. The enemy doesn't always come wearing armor. Sometimes it comes through silence, through distance, through the quiet erosion of trust. It rises in subtle ways, in insecurity, in jealousy, in the unseen corners of your life where hope begins to flicker. And yet, even as the enemy rises, there is something more powerful, more ancient, and infinitely more stable that begins to rise above it when darkness presses in. It is often the signal that light is preparing to break through. The presence of an enemy is not a sign of your weakness. It is evidence of your purpose. The higher you are called to go, the stronger the resistance becomes. But what we forget is that resistance is not the end, it is the birthplace of strength. It teaches you to see through illusions, to stand firm in your truth, to remember who you are when everything around you tries to make you forget. Every time the enemy rises, it awakens a deeper awareness in you, a spiritual alertness that calls heaven into action. You might not see it, but the very moment you feel surrounded, you are actually being encircled by a greater presence. The rise of your enemy does not intimidate God, it activates him. There is no scheme, no deception, no betrayal that takes him by surprise. When you are cornered by people's motives, he is already rewriting the ending. When you are attacked by doubt, he is already planting a new seed of faith within you. The balance of power has never been equal. For every mountain that rises before you, there is a higher mountain behind you, the one where divine strength stands unshaken. You are never truly outnumbered, even when you feel alone. Because the moment the enemy rises, heaven stands taller. There will be seasons when it seems like the wicked prosper, when those who hurt you appear to win, when injustice stretches longer than it should. But the story doesn't end there. There is a divine delay that is not denial, it's preparation. It's the moment when heaven gathers all the unseen threads of your pain and begins to weave them into strength. What rises against you also reveals what rises within you. You learn to discern, you learn to let go, you learn to trust that silence does not mean absence. The enemy may have momentum, but you have meaning, and meaning will always outlast malice sometimes. The enemy rises through your own fears. It's the inner voice that tells you you're not capable, not worthy, not enough. Those whispers are powerful because they sound like truth when you're tired. But here's the deeper truth when that voice gets louder. It's because breakthrough is near. Darkness grows loudest just before light arrives. Every time the enemy rises inside your mind, God rises higher in your spirit. He lifts your perspective, shifts your focus from what's breaking to what's being built. He turns your anxiety into awareness, your pain into purpose, your wounds into wisdom. You begin to realize that opposition is not destruction, it's refinement. It burns away what no longer belongs so that what is eternal can emerge. And then there's the battlefield of relationships where the enemy doesn't just rise as a person, but as a pattern. Misunderstandings, betrayals, manipulation, they all come to test what you stand for. But even in the heartbreak, there's a sacred rising. You start to see people's actions not as reflections of your worth, but as revelations of their journey. You start to understand that your peace is not dependent on their approval. What was meant to humiliate you begins to humble you into strength. What was meant to destroy your trust actually deepens your discernment. When the enemy rises in relationships, it's often because a chapter is closing and something purer is about to begin. The beauty of divine response is that it doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes God rises through a small act of grace, a word at the right time, a door you didn't expect to open, a calm that settles over your heart when everything outside feels chaotic. That's how he works, not by matching the enemy's aggression, but by surpassing it with peace. The rise of God in your life is quiet but unstoppable. It comes through wisdom that silences confusion, through endurance that outlasts attack, through light that no shadow can hold down. When others fight for power, you learn to fight for presence, the presence of mind, the presence of peace, the presence of purpose. The truth is, if you never had enemies, you'd never discover how high your faith can rise. Opposition is the echo that calls your spirit upward. It's not there to break you, it's there to reveal how deeply rooted you are. Each time the enemy rises, you rise a little higher too. You rise in character, in maturity, in the understanding that not everything deserves your reaction. You start to master the art of restraint, of standing tall while others throw stones, of choosing silence over noise, of walking away from battles that no longer define you. That's when you begin to realize the meaning of real strength, not the kind that shouts, but the kind that stands unbothered. And when you look back, you see the pattern. Every attack became an elevation. Every loss became a lesson. Every delay became direction. The things that once made you cry are now the same things that built your courage. You thought the enemy's rise was the end of your story, but it was only the middle, the turning point where grace took over and transformed everything meant for harm into something holy. Because when the enemy rises, God does not react, he responds. And his response is always higher, wiser, and stronger than anything that comes against you. So when opposition comes again, and it will, don't panic. Don't fight on their level. Don't let bitterness take root. Lift your eyes higher. Remember that what is rising against you is only temporary, but what is rising within you is eternal. The louder the enemy becomes, the higher your destiny calls you. You are not here to survive the storm, you are here to rise above it. Because every time the enemy rises, heaven rises higher within you, reminding you that your story has always been written from a place of victory. There is a language beyond words, one that heaven understands more clearly than any prayer you could ever speak. It's the language of your tears. They come in silence when you are too exhausted to explain, too overwhelmed to ask, too broken to articulate what hurts. But those tears are not signs of weakness. They are sacred signals, carrying your pain to the divine in a form no enemy can intercept. Every drop that falls carries weight in the spiritual realm. It tells heaven that you are still present, still fighting, Still hoping even when hope feels far away. Tears are honest. They do not lie. They reveal what words often hide: the depth of your love, the ache of your disappointment, the courage it takes to keep believing when nothing seems to change. When you cry, you are not losing strength. You are releasing it. You are making space for healing, for renewal, for divine intervention. There is power in that release, because surrender is not defeat, it's an invitation. Your tears invite God to step into the space where your control ends. They turn pain into prayer without you having to say a single word. In moments when life feels too heavy, tears become your way of laying burdens down. They cleanse the soul in ways logic cannot. They soften the heart so that grace can enter again. Sometimes the breakthrough you've been waiting for begins not in victory, but in vulnerability. You kneel down, you cry, and somewhere unseen, chains begin to break. Because tears move heaven. They carry the sound of surrender, and heaven always responds to surrender. The world may see crying as weakness, but in the spirit it's warfare. It's how you fight when words fail. Every time you cry and still choose to stand, something sacred happens inside you. Your spirit stretches, your faith deepens, your capacity to love expands. Those who have never cried deeply can never truly understand compassion. Your tears don't just change your heart, they prepare you to see life through the eyes of grace. They make you more human, more kind, more aware of the unseen battles others are fighting. In that way, your tears become both a weapon and a teacher. They disarm pride and empower empathy. They teach you that real strength is not found in pretending to be unshaken, but in being fully alive to your own humanity. So do not hide your tears. Let them fall when they need to. Let them wash away the pain that words cannot touch. Every tear that touches the ground tells a story that heaven records, and while you see loss, God sees transformation. While you see brokenness, He sees birth. Your tears are never wasted. They are gathered, remembered, and turned into strength for the battles ahead. In the unseen world, your tears are not your weakness, they are your weapon, your worship, and your proof that no matter what tries to destroy you, your spirit still lives. There are moments when life feels unbearably unfair. You give your best, you love deeply, you act with integrity, and still you find yourself on the losing side of someone else's story. You watch as people twist truth, take credit, or walk away without remorse, and you wonder if justice will ever come. The silence of those moments can feel like abandonment, but silence is not absence. Justice, divine justice, does not rush. It arrives in perfect timing, not human timing. It moves quietly, gathering truth from every hidden place, preparing to reveal what has been concealed. It may not come when you want it, but it always comes. The beauty of divine justice is that it doesn't operate like human revenge. It doesn't seek to humiliate, it seeks to restore balance. It rebuilds what was broken, not through chaos, but through clarity. When the scales of life seem uneven, when wrong appears to win, there is still a higher order at work. It sees the motives behind the actions, the intentions behind the words, the heart behind the mask. You may feel forgotten, but heaven keeps record of every tear, every betrayal, every sacrifice made in faith. Divine justice is patient because it is perfect, and perfection takes time often. What feels like delay is actually protection. The universe waits until your heart is ready to receive justice without bitterness, because true justice is not about seeing your enemy fall, it's about watching your peace return. It's about reaching the point where you no longer crave revenge, only restoration. Sometimes divine justice allows you to walk away, not because you lost, but because you've outgrown the battle. It teaches you to trust that truth has its own rhythm, and no lie can dance forever. So while others run ahead chasing false victories, you stand still, knowing that time will always expose what words cannot. There will come a moment when everything hidden becomes clear, when every secret motive is revealed, and every injustice finds its answer. But when that moment arrives, you will see that the real victory was not in their fall, but in your growth. You will realize that the delay was mercy, a sacred pause that allowed your heart to heal before justice unfolded. Because divine justice is never about punishment, it's about alignment. It places everything back where it belongs. It returns peace to the weary, dignity to the broken, and clarity to the confused. And when it finally moves, it moves completely. Nothing and no one can stand against it. So even when it seems slow, trust it, because divine justice is never late. It is always right on time. There is a moment in every struggle when you want to act, to defend yourself, to speak louder, to prove your worth, to push back against what feels unjust. The instinct to fight is deeply human. Yet there comes a time when the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Not because you've given up, but because the battle is no longer yours to fight. Standing still does not mean being passive, it means being anchored. It is the quiet strength of knowing that the storm may rage, but it cannot move what is rooted in truth. When you stand still, you step aside and allow a higher power to take its rightful place in the fight. The fall of your enemy does not begin when you strike back. It begins the moment you refuse to match their energy. Every act of malice feeds on reaction. Every lie seeks validation through your anger. Every attack craves your attention. When you withhold it, when you stand still in peace and clarity, the power shifts. You no longer play their game, you rise above it. That is when the unseen begins to move. The balance starts to turn. The same traps laid for you begin to close on those who built them. The downfall of your enemy is not something you must cause. It unfolds naturally as truth rises to the surface. Standing still is an act of faith. It requires trust that what is meant for you cannot be taken, and what is built on deception cannot last. It's a spiritual pause that says, I will not let anger become my master. I will not let fear dictate my next step. I will not trade my peace for their chaos. It's in that stillness that your soul regains authority. The noise around you may continue, but it no longer controls you. And while you hold your ground quietly and consistently, something begins to shift beyond what you can see. The one who plotted against you starts to stumble over their own intent. The web of lies begins to unravel thread by thread. Justice begins to move silently, and precisely what many call delay is often divine timing. The fall of your enemy is not always loud, nor is it meant for your entertainment. Sometimes it happens through their own awakening, their own confrontation with truth, their own loss of control over what they thought they could manipulate. You may never see the moment it happens, but you will feel its peace. Because when something meant to harm you can no longer touch you, that is victory. When your heart stays gentle in the face of betrayal, that is power. And when you choose stillness over struggle, you declare that you trust something greater than fear. The fall has already begun. You just need to stay still long enough to witness the rise of your own peace in the end. Every battle you have faced has not been about the enemy, it has been about your evolution. The pain, the betrayal, the waiting, all of it was shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more aligned with your purpose. You were never meant to fight endlessly. You were meant to rise. The enemies that rose against you were only instruments to reveal the strength within you that could not be awakened any other way. And now, as you stand still, you begin to realize that the victory was never about seeing them fall, but about discovering who you became in the process. The fall of your enemy is already in motion, not because of vengeance, but because truth always finds its way home. What was taken will be restored, what was broken will be healed, and what was meant to destroy you will become the foundation of your power. So breathe, let go, and stand firm in quiet confidence. You have already won in the unseen. The noise will fade, the chaos will end, and peace will rise from the ashes. This is not the end of your story, this is the beginning of your divine restoration.